Central Weekly, a weekly podcast from the Central Podcast Network. Welcome to episode number 59 of the Central Weekly. We are in a brand new series here at Central. It is the week after Easter, and we not only have our co-captain, co-host that wants a wind guard from me because he thinks I'm sick, John Hittinger.
I'm saying breathe that way.
Do you want to go in the other room?
No, it's all right. Just breathe that way. Hey, everybody. We got Jared. We got James. We got Shayln
Vaughn. Welcome, Shayln Vaughn. This is the first time that Shayln Vaughn has been on the podcast. Shayln Cook, yes, not Shayln Vaughn.
They're two different people.
Two different people.
Two different people.
Well, here's the cool thing that we're going to do the next 6 weeks. As kind of part of this new series we have at Central, Build This House. We're not going to be really too dogmatic about sticking to the sermon. We're just bringing in two of our favorite guests, and we're going to be just talking about, basically, we're looking at a ministry spotlight. That's what we're going to look at. And so we're going to bring a pair of staff members in for the next couple weeks and to chat about what God is doing through their ministries here at Central. So we have James McKinzie.
Hello, everyone.
Our discipleship pastor here at Central, and Shayln Vaughn, our connections director at Central. Do you like the Vaughn?
Like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Shayln the Vaughn.
I like
Hey, by the way,
yes.
before we go any further,
Please.
I wanted to compliment you on your use of the word dogmatic.
Thank you.
good
Thank
job.
you.
Speaking of dogs, you got a haircut, James.
I did get a haircut.
And it's a good haircut. But when I said nice haircut, what did you say?
Well, because it's kind of like a buzz haircut.
Right.
And it feels like when you like rub your head like over the top there that it feels like patting a beagle backwards.
Patting a beagle
Are
backwards.
you familiar with patting beagles backwards?
Yeah. I mean, we've had...
That's a tongue twister. You want to try to say it 5 times fast? Patting beagles backwards.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to try.
Just,
We're getting off to a strong start.
yeah, so...
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
we'll
well,
just let that one go.
So,
back to your regularly scheduled program.
John, talk to us about this new series, Build This House.
Sure. Before I do that, what does this sound like? What flavor candy does that sound like to you?
I know what it is.
What does that sound like to you, James?
It sounds... I'm going to go with cinnamon.
It is a cinnamon candy off of your desk.
Yes, it is.
See, everybody goes into... James has 2 things on his desk, 2 candies. A cinnamon, hard candy,
Right.
like my grandma, and Tootsie Rolls.
Correct.
I'm a Tootsie Roll guy.
And by the way, John does not eat the cinnamon discs the right way. Those are meant to be sucked on.
Yeah, you would be a guy that would never bite into it.
No, you're not supposed to.
You would be.
If you want to chew on the Tootsie Rolls, but you do not chew the cinnamon disc. And he just, it's like gone. He sticks it, gone.
I had 2 or 3 the other day when we were in there together.
Yeah, no.
You are one of the most disciplined people I know, James. I mean that as a compliment. And that, to me, that's an example of your discipline. Don't bite it.
Because,
Don't bite it. Yeah, it's in your mouth.
See, I got one in my mouth right now, too.
Wow, and you've probably had it in there for a day and a half.
Shayln, what's your favorite candy?
Actually, this is a
Tootsie Rolls is not mine.
This
by
is
the
a
way.
touchy subject in my household of me and Caden the Vaughn right
Yeah.
now. Sour punch bites, but I'll eat them until I
Ooh.
make myself sick.
Yeah. Yep.
Not lack of discipline.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the other side of it, Shayln's eating the whole bowl.
Hey, just to clarify, though, it's not like the cinnamon disc and the Tootsie Rolls are my favorite candy.
Okay.
In fact, far from it. So the cinnamon discs, I have those on my desk. There's purpose behind this because anyone that comes to my office, you know, I don't want to like have bad breath kind of thing. So I stick a cinnamon disc in my mouth. Okay. Tootsie Rolls, I mean, they're good candies, but they're not like my favorite because if it was my favorite, I'd eat them all the time. So I want something that's like, yeah, I like that, but not so much that I'm just going to eat it all the time. So there's logic behind that too.
You
And
have
that's-
an option of all the gums and all the candies to make your breath smell good, and it's cinnamon.
Cinnamon. Yeah.
Cinnamon.
It's not. If you're familiar with Central Christian Church, our go-to is Wintermint, Lifesaver Wintermint.
Yeah, I don't like those as well.
That has been, a staple for 10 years. I think.
Jennifer Bass is not a fan of the
Nope.
wintergreen.
No.
She doesn't like those.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for episode
That's
number
it for
59.
59.
Thanks for joining us.
Build this house.
It was great. So build this house. It is really neat because if you were at Easter, you got this really neat promo that Shayln Vaughn helped record and do a good job with. And it really just talked about, hey, 170 years this year at Central. So John, take it from there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're enunciating that. That's 170, 170. That's a lot of years.
That's a lot.
1853. Central Christian Church was founded.
You talked about this, but think about that. You've got 2 world wars,
right?
A civil war to begin this, and you've got
conflicts galore, recessions. You look at the things that have happened in the world since 1853. That is just.
Did you just make that up?
I think it might be more than 30.
It would have to be more than that.
Because 53, you would have been Buchanan, probably would have been president, and he was the 15th president. And now we're at 45. So, wow, that's easier than I thought. 30 presidents.
Do you know what? Let me tell you what just happened. So he's acting like he just pulled this off the top of his head. Buchanan. Before this, he went and looked that up.
I know my presidents. Do not.
Jared does
test
know his
me on
president.
my
I'll give him that. Yeah.
All right.
So, but anyways, continue. 170 years.
So anyway, a lot has happened, and most recently, of course, we went through this season of COVID, and there's just other conflicts. But so there's been a measure of tearing down on and off.
Seriously,
inside of the church. The church will always stand because it's the Church of Jesus Christ, and so it's the church. The church will always stand. Hold on, James is laughing at something.
He's in the other room at this point.
I don't want to. Give me Sharon. So anyways, so the whole concept is, I said it on January 1st, and I'll say it again on April 15th, 14th, 16th. I feel like God has called us and placed us in a season of building up, both as his people and as his church.
Yeah. And it's been like you said, churches right now after COVID, they're at 70% of what they used to be.
On average.
On average. And it's remarkable that we're here in Southern Illinois that we're 125% above what we were. I don't know. I'm doing math.
Sure.
I'm throwing math out there. Because we're averaging over 2,000 on site.
Which is
incredible.
Yeah, praise God.
And so that really brings to Connection director Shayln Vaughn. You've had, for Easter, let's talk about Easter, because you mentioned this too. Easter was an all-time record with on-site attendance. That Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. And Shayln, how many Connect cards did we have? Basically, people that maybe came into the Blue Room or filled one out.
We had 25.
25.
So, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but like 95% of them had marked that it was their first time.
Yeah.
95% of those cards, we saw 5 baptisms last weekend. It's just
3 this weekend.
Just
planned.
what a great not without its challenges for sure, but just praise God for the season that we're experiencing as a church, and it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with any one of us, but it is this cumulative effort to honor God, and I believe that He's honoring that.
Yeah, building up, I think, is a big thing for people because we understand. It's really neat. On my bus route, there is a house being built on 26th Street, and right now it's at its foundation. And it's really neat to kind of see, hey, how long is this going to take? And just to see, basically your faith. You almost could have said this. Faith this week was talking about our foundation. And our foundation, and you referenced this. This is when you talked about faith, you were talking both collectively as the church, our foundation, but also our foundation as our personal faith as well. You kind of tied both of those
right.
together.
Yeah, I tried to make that point at the beginning of the sermon. Like I'm going to do my best to bridge both of those worlds, because we're talking about building us up individually, like a season of building up for us as God's people, but also corporately speaking, as a season of building up for God's church.
Mm-hmm. And you compared the two builders. Both had the same supplies. Both went through the same storms, but one was listening and one wasn't.
They had the same information. They went through the same storm. They had the same goal, yet 2 very different outcomes.
Yeah.
One house stood. One house was wrecked.
Yeah. I liked how you said about when the girls are on their phones and you ask, "Are you listening?" Mm-hmm. There's somebody. I'm going to do another bus reference. I usually say hi and bye to myself with the majority of students on the bus. Because I'll say, see you later. And then they didn't, there's no, because they got their earbuds in. Everybody, it's almost has a second life going on, listening to a podcast or like this, or there's something always else going on. They're not really paying attention to what's in front of them. And that's probably what that one builder, he was doing all the things that he thought he needed to do, but didn't have a solid foundation. Mm-hmm. And you talked about the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
And I cannot say Leaning Tower of Pisa. This is my dad coming out. But I can't say Leaning Tower of Pisa without thinking of the Backyardigans. And they had that whole Leaning Tower of Pizza episode. And yeah.
Classic. Shayln, did you grow up with Backyardigans?
No. I'm young, but I'm not that young.
I'm trying just to help here. Because I think that's the thing. When the important part is that for a lot of years, they didn't really understand that there was a foundation issue. They didn't understand that they didn't see a lean.
Which...
maybe they did.
I don't know if they did or not, but I know that like currently its move rate is about 1/20th of an inch per year,
which is 1 inch every 20 years.
Yeah, math. Do the math there.
Well, I just feel intimidated because we have a math major in the room, and I just want to keep spitting these facts.
Yeah, you
out.
did well.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yeah. So at first, and what an applicable kind of a example, because at first, I mean, for the first year, the first 20 years, like an inch in 20 years, nobody's noticing that in a building. I mean, you can't tell that in the lean of a building, but over decades and centuries, all of a sudden, this foundation that it was built on, literally Pisa means marshy land, right? Yeah. And so this foundation that it was built on proves to be not stable. And so this tower starts to lean, and over time, it shows itself.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed in your picture choices there. You could have picked from the thousands of photos of the people that are pretending to hold the Leaning Tower of Pisa up. I mean, how often? I mean, I've done that picture at the Arch. If you're familiar with St. Louis, you get the right position where it looks like you're pushing on the arch. It's all about the perspective.
The concept reminded me of the book, The Frog in the Kettle. You familiar with that book?
Backyardigans to Frog in the Kettle.
Seriously, are you not?
Not sure.
Nope. Is that
no?
Hansel and Gretel?
So when I was a young adult, that was the thing. The book talks about how talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa is probably a lot more.
Is this how to boil a frog? I know exactly. I know what you're talking about.
It is. Yeah, you put a frog in. You put a frog in. If you put a frog in
Lobster would do the
hot
same.
water, immediately it will jump out. But if you put them in like the water, although I've never tried this.
You never murdered frogs?
No, I've never done this. But that's the premise of the book. And as the temperature slowly goes up, they don't jump out. They just continue to stay in there because they're gradually getting, I guess, used to it, and then to the point it's no good.
And
obviously.
You compare this to
and then they croak.
Oh no!
Yes.
And you're comparing this to our personal lives, but also as the church. And really, like you mentioned, as a nation, we're going down this path. And a lot of people are just, okay, we'll make this turn, make this change and it'll be okay. But make this change and we'll make it. But we're radically different than we were 30 years ago.
Sure. It's the slow creep.
Yeah. That's what we got.
Just a frog in the kettle.
Just a frog in the kettle.
So the heat's being turned up.
I loved how you said you were talking about digging deep and making the extra effort in the foundation. Yep. That's what we have to do. And again, we're not preaching a gospel of works-based here, but we are saying you need to pay attention to your foundation.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week too. I mean, your faith and your works go together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes it takes a little bit more effort to have something that's a little bit more grounded.
Yeah.
Both in our faith and both in faith and deed, right?
Yeah.
Word and deed.
All right. So let's turn our attention now directly to the outreach department that James helms at Central Christian Church. Sounds good?
I do what?
You helmet.
I helmet?
Well, you can't say it that way. But you are at the helm. But Basically, you handle discipleship and outreach here at Central, and you've got Hayden, Maria, Randy, and Shayln on your team.
Correct.
And this is where I really, because a lot of the things that we're talking about building up here, we've seen some tangible fruit in two things: groups and so many new people coming into Central. We talked about that a little bit. But James, first to get us started, here's the official question: how has God been working in your ministry lately? And how has God been working in groups lately at Central?
Well, I mean, we continue to see the obvious fruit is continuing to see more and more people involved in groups. I think do you even mention it in the sermon this weekend about
I
being
talked about
the most? Was it like 250?
I did. Yeah,
it is crazy. We had we had like 200 people in the session, but that doesn't count
all the groups that are meeting at that time.
The ongoing group kind of stuff. But I think we're seeing more and more people involved in groups, and it's just the connections that people are developing is really neat. And then even out of this last session of groups, I mean, we had 4 baptisms that took place, and so it's just, I think we're seeing a lot of people not only growing in their faith, but growing closer together as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
which is what that's what it's all about. So.
Yeah. And so if you kind of look at a tag team here, groups, and then Shayln helps with getting people connected into serving roles here at Central. And we've seen, as much as we could say, hey, there's a lot of still big glaring needs that we have, like in Kid Depot and across some other areas in ministry here at Central, you've seen a lot more different variety of people getting involved in a variety of ministries and in community functions too, having had Shayln.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's been cool, too, to watch even like those different people jumping into different things and then also seeing those friendships.
Yeah.
Like that's been super, super people. I'm like, I would never would have pinned that, but like they are really great friends or they're really great ministry partners.
Yeah. And I think that's what's different than James and I were talking about this last week. That's different than maybe before a couple years ago. You've got people that are experiencing life change within a group setting, getting closer together as a group, and then serving together as that group. And I think that's something that's been a little bit different. They're excited to do things different or together.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And it's funny to me. Funny is not right. It's
hilarious.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome to me to see how, Jared, you're so familiar with this, how we just pray about the people that we're going to put in what group. Mm-hmm. And these people come into a group not knowing each other. Yeah. And then by the end, I had someone tell me the other night that, when groups were over with, there was kind of like tears. There were tears because, hey, this thing's done. Yeah. And that they've drawn so close to one another. And part of that happens because, we provided like this time, hey, an opportunity for you to go serve somewhere together. And, when you do things together, when you're together that much, it just draws those bonds. Yeah. So,
yeah. And so one of the biggest areas of serving that we have this weekend that we started here at the Central. Well, it was a soft opening last week. We had it ready. But this weekend at Central, the 14th and 16th, was Central Serve Day sign-up weekend. Again, say that 5 times fast. And this was basically the first weekend, Shayln, that people could get online. They could check out in the atrium all the variety of projects that they can get involved with. They could sign up and get their free T-shirt.
And get their free T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, we say like because of Easter and stuff, we opened it 2 weeks ago, but we knew, just with Easter, we weren't like advertising it, until this weekend, but we had 72 people signed up before we started, like really sign up weekend. Yeah, we have 72 people signed up already.
What is the most people we've ever had involved before?
Honestly, Jared would have a better answer for that than I would.
Well, I would think around 2018, we had about 650.
Yeah.
Is that a hard number? Like, you think that's...
Yeah.
Or is that an estimate? That's
an estimate because we had around 400 probably signed up, but we didn't require like for all the families to sign up then, like we do now, like an individual. So when we did our ballpark guesstimate, remember, because we used to do things outside and we had people gather together for a picture. Mm-hmm. I remember Jeremy and I counted, and then we estimated too, we had about 50 or 60 in Wayne City at that time. But we're equally. Last year was about the same.
It was It was a little less. I think we were closer to like 400
Okay.
last year. However, I felt like that was a really great number considering that was really our first year like in full swing since COVID. So I felt really, really good about that. And honestly, me being like first year doing that too, I honestly would have been terrified if 600 people signed up this year. I feel a little bit more prepared, but I think about 400 last year, and then I would love to have 600 this year. Or next year is year number 10 of Central Serve Day.
We're gonna celebrate.
And I would love to have the
decade.
most number ever of volunteers for next
And really,
let's aim for the most this year, and then next year still the most.
The most.
Yeah. Let's do that. No, let's just cut it off now so we can get the most next year. But how it works when you sign up, and then that's the thing I think you did a good job in service telling us that if you don't see a project that you could maybe do on Central Serve Day, or maybe you have a project that you've been thinking of doing as a family, or like you said, if you have an elderly neighbor across the street that needs their yard, get involved and do that, and then let us know so you can get your free t-shirt. And the reason we do those t-shirts are for, number one, conversational starters, and number two, just to say, hey, God's doing this in my life. God has showed me love, and I want to show love to you. And so it's just a good thing. And the Central Serve Day shirts this year are Build This House. On the back, it's got
A time to build up.
A time to build up. I
Please,
just thought it was
3-3. Way to go, Shay.
super
3-3.
cool, like kind of interweave of what's going on here on campus, but also what's kind of in our hearts right now as a church family.
Did you spell out Ecclesiastes? Or did you ECC it? Because
Listen,
that's what I do every time.
I put Ecclesiastes. I can't spell it for you right now at this time, unfortunately. But it is on the shirt and it is spelled correctly. But it did take us about 3 attempts to get it spelled the right way.
I don't even close enough for it to auto correct it. They're like, I don't know what you're trying to do here.
I will say too, if you are an online or a WSIL viewer listening to this, there is still opportunity for you just because it's like advertised on site or that it's in Mount Vernon. The whole reason why we also have is Pick My Own Project is so that if you want to go out in your community, pick up trash, do yard work, whatever you want to do, we will mail you a shirt. It's on the form. So we still want you to be involved. And and then the other thing I was going to say, you brought this up already, but the talking points about the shirts, I actually strategically left off Central Serve Day. I left off the year. I only put the Bible verse with not the complete verse because I want it to be like, I want someone to ask. I want someone to ask you like, what is the cross on your shirt? I want someone to ask you, what does Ecclesiastes 3:3 say? I want to ask, like, I want people to ask, what are you doing? Not just that we have all the answers on our shirt and no one has to approach us.
Don't talk to me. Just look at my shirt.
James,
what project are you doing for Central Serve Day this year?
I am... We're cleaning the beach.
Oh, that's sweet. You're going to take the morning, clean the beach.
Yes.
But so much plastic in the ocean.
I know.
There is.
You are doing your part.
James has devoted himself to go all the way
turn
to the
this
beach.
conversation
Is this your normal Carolinas family
in the ocean.
trip? No? Oh.
No, it's not. No, we are, we'll be on a beach somewhere.
Beach. So. It's really neat because Central Serve Day, we toyed around with it last year, end of April, didn't we? But this year it's back on its traditional first Saturday in May.
Correct, which is why I'm going to be on a beach.
Yeah, exactly. So Central Serve Day, one of our biggest events. Again, sign up centralnow.com/survey. Go to our website to get that done so you could be a part of the big day on May 6th. I want to make sure I said the date because I don't know if we've said the date yet. May 6th.
May 6th.
And
May 6th.
Any other?
Thank you, James.
And here's the reason I wanted to talk. I don't want to really talk about. Well, numbers mean. Say the phrase, Jared, that you say.
John.
Numbers mean people. People.
Every
name has
number.
a
Every number has a name. Every name has a life, and every life needs Jesus Christ.
So let's talk about those lives. Share some stories that you guys have that are just some wins that you've had recently within your ministry areas.
Oh yeah, that's real easy to come up with off the top of your head. Go ahead,
I'm like,
Shay. You go first.
Honestly, I would say one that I just had this past Easter weekend, which was really cool, is my little friend Jasper Ann. That was super cool. Jasper Ann, if you know her around the church, she's a 5-year-old little girl, and she came up to me last week. I guess they'd been talking about baptism for a while, and so anyways, she came up to me and said, hey, I want to be baptized, and I want you to baptize me. And I said, okay. And I said, can you tell me the gospel story? Can you tell me the story of Jesus? And super cool because I'm thinking like, okay, like she's 5 years old. Like, no, this girl probably said it better than I could say it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and then I thought of like, don't let people look down on you because you're young. And so she knew it. And on that Sunday morning, like she came to get baptized. And I said, why do you want to be baptized? And she said, because if I don't get baptized, she said, I want people to know that I know God and that I talk to God. But if I don't get baptized, then how are people going to know? And I was like, okay, let's do it. Yep. She's ready. But it was just super cool to see, like, I mean, whether you're, like Marie says, whether you're 5 or 105, you know, just cool to see. Yeah.
It was in that water. She almost dunked herself. I don't think you helped much, but she kind of just did a little lean back.
She was ready.
I got this. James, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know that I have John, I don't know that I have like a particular story that sticks out, but just the number of hurting people that come in and that we're able to pray with. And, it's just amazing to me, the struggles that people are going through, and then, you know, just need someone to listen to them and someone to pray with them. And that happens weekly. I mean, it happens every single week. We have someone in the blue room that we do that with. So
I think, and this sounds bad to say this, but I think the amount of hurting people we've grown because of that, because people are wanting that connection, that genuine relationship connection.
Right.
And people are wanting a respite from this crazy world, and they're finding it here. I think it reminds me of the Rock Island church that you did last year, John. It's just about people should find shelter here. They should find a way to breathe. And I think even you've got some people that are ministering in other churches in different communities on Sundays, but then they come here on a Friday night just to get a reprieve, just to get a little respite, to get fed themselves, so then they could go and feed some people in their ministry areas on a Sunday in a different part of it. But I really think I think that's one of our ways that why we're growing here at Central right now is people are hurting and they know they need something that's to put almost a salve. Is that the right salve on their hurts? But it is. Anything else that you guys want to share about a ministry spotlight for your areas in connections and outreach?
I think that you're going to hear a lot more in the coming months about outreach, where I think we're going to be making a bigger push to be more intentional about inviting and connecting with people, and developing those relationships that leads to the relationship that matters the most. And we're working on a lot of things. I don't know we probably talked about this in here, but one of my responsibilities was missions, overseeing missions. And now that is not the case. Trevor's now doing that. And part of the reason for that change is to kind of free me up a little bit more to give outreach the attention that it really deserves. And so we've got some things in the works, and looking forward to sharing all of that with people in the near future. Yeah. So.
Because John, you kind of ended your sermon with what matters most here at Central, and you said 3 things: 1, the Bible; 2, the family; and 3, the walk. Yeah, and really, what we've been talking about is the walk.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the walk portion of that is just the daily discipleship, the daily shaping as we become more like the people He wants us to be.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about the opportunities that Central provides for people to grow. We never want what we do to be your only form of discipleship. Just like Phoebe says when she talks about parenting at Family Dedication, which is coming up, which we'll talk about her. It's the parent has to be the primary source of discipleship. We as a church family can do a lot to help you and assist you, but it's really got to be up to what you personally do, the intentional time that you put into your faith. And that's really what's going to matter for you and building that strong foundation. All right, so next week we're going to have Trevor and Maria in the seats where you're at now. We'll see if they sit in the same seats. And they're going to give us some information. We'll talk a little bit about missions with Trevor.
Good.
because he's the expert on that now.
Yeah.
And but it is you two are doing a really great job, and you really see God has put you in a specific place for a specific reason. And it is I got to see you first, James, at guest services, helping out there, and we all knew that something great was going to happen when you got on staff. We didn't understand it was going to be this monumental for all of us. You're almost like a pastor for us on staff a lot of times. The encouragement that you bring us, there's constantly people in your office just because they know you have a lot of wisdom.
Cinnamon discs and Tootsie Rolls.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. You're good. And then Shayln.
I can't remember a time in my life hearing the phrase cinnamon discs
so many times
I have
in
heard
30 minutes.
Cinnamon discs 25 times in the last half an hour.
This episode is brought to you by Cinnamon.
Yeah. Is there anything we need to talk about? Like, because every time we mention about my previous employment at State Farm, is there anything that we need to bring up?
I wasn't going to bring it up this time.
Job.
Well,
you did.
You worked for State Farm?
Have I ever shared that story?
Well,
yeah,
once or twice. James McKinzie, our discipleship pastor, and Shayln Vaughn. What's a beautiful last name, Shayln.
Thank you
And
so much.
she's our connections director here at Central. If you guys want to talk more about them or have questions for them, their email's on the website, or you can just text 618-242-4185. Now, when it comes to the rest of these couple weeks that we have, if you are listening to the Central Weekly right now and you have questions for our staff or questions for Jon and I to answer about Central, we did a little bit about this last year with the town hall, but these are more intentional conversations like, how do I get involved with this? Or what do they do this in this form of ministry? We want to answer those questions, and we'll make sure to ask those questions to the guests when they come. So again, you could do that. Jared, Jared, @centralnow.com. Send those to us. And again, like and review whatever podcast that you are provider that you listen to, because again, that lets more people know that this is a great source of hope, hopefully, and a great conversation that will really deepen your faith and take it to the next level, because we all want to make relationships matter. And our hope is that this conversations that we have are just the intentional way that we can say, hey, I'm doing that in my life, and I want to make sure that other people know about Jesus. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So that's it. It's weird ending this differently with 4 people now.
Yeah.
So that's episode 59.
Can we, should we sing like Amazing Grace or something?
Go ahead, James.
Yeah,
Start us
take
out.
it away.
We'll play the music loudly while you do it. But thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week for episode 60 of Build This House. We're going to be looking at communities.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we got Trevor, because Trevor's going to take the helm.
You got
Of
it.
the sermon. Excited about that. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Shayln. Thanks, James. And
Goodbye.
here comes the music.
Grace, how sweet the sound.
Shayln's on the phone.